Dude, if you are struggling to lose weight or drop body fat, well, in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 4-step framework that you need to follow to lose your next 3 to 5 kilos. Now, before we jump into it, I actually want you to understand the type of individual that you are, because the terms calorie deficit or calorie surplus are often thrown around. And it is basic energy thermodynamics. Energy in versus energy out. Well, the reason I'm gaining weight is because my body is consuming more calories than what it's expending. Compared to a calorie deficit, well, we're expending more calories than what our body is consuming. But I would argue there's more to it than meets the eye. We can actually differentiate the type of person that you are and the reason you're in a calorie surplus through 2 categories. Whether you are an overeater, you eat significantly more than what the average individual will consume, or you are a grazer. You eat smaller portions more frequently throughout the day. However, you don't have an understanding of the number of calories you're actually consuming or the macronutrients within those snacks or those smaller meals. For example, snacks are typically high in saturated fat. Fat is an energy-dense macromolecule. It contains 9 kilocalories per gram. And of course, if you're having them quite frequently throughout the day, well, it's going to tip you into a calorie surplus. So let's start with the grazer personality. And the best way that we can strategize around this is actually looking at 2 things. Number 1, your eating window. And number 2, your fasting window. And the framework looks a little bit like this. If this is relatively new to you, I would start at the bottom. You're going to be eating for 8 hours of the day, or you have a set time frame from 9 till 5 p.m. where you're going to be consuming any food or any drink. That then means for 16 hours of that day, you're going to be fasting. And as you become a little bit more advanced, you are aware of your hunger signals and your dietary patterns, you can move up this framework. Therefore, for 6 hours of the day, you're going to be eating any food or drink. And then for 18 hours, you're going to be fasting. Now, again, for the majority of people, they're going to have work. You're going to have family events. You're going to have social occasions where you may not necessarily eat a considerable amount of food, but you just need to understand that whatever eating window that you choose, you have to stick to it. So if you're eating for 4 hours of the day, let's say it's from 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock, well, for the remaining 20 hours of that day, you're then going to be fasting. Or the majority of people, they like to fast in the morning. Let's say it's from 9 until 1. They can then have their first meal at 1 p.m. and then eat it through till 5 p.m. if they're following that 4-hour window. So again, if you are a grazer, we need to strategize your eating window. For the majority of people, they do work from 9 until 5 p.m. Therefore, you may fast from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. And then you have your first meal, but it's within that eating window. So if you've chosen to have 4 hours of the day where you're going to be eating food, 20 hours where you're going to be fasting, where you're going to eat all of your meals between 1 and then 5 p.m. But questions that we need to ask ourselves are, number 1, when do I get most hungry? Just because you've seen a trend online showing that people are fasting from 9 until 1 p.m. They can use caffeine, they can use water, they can use nicotine gum to suppress their appetite, does not mean it will work for you, because you are very much your own individual. You need to understand your own hunger signals. But if it works, great, don't change it. Number 2, start the planning of your window around a non-negotiable meal. So it could be breakfast with your family. Therefore, if you're having breakfast at 7 a.m, well, that's when your eating window will start, from 7 until 2 p.m. if you're following the 6 hours eating window, and then the 18 hours fasting window. Or even a meal around 5 p.m. So that would mean that your first meal could start at 1 p.m. for meal 1. Let's say meal 2 is around 3 p.m. and then meal 3 around 5 p.m. That way you have eaten within your specific window, and then it's not gonna dip into your fasting window. Moving on, if you are someone that labels themselves as an overeater, a little bit like this chap up here, if you don't know who this is, his name is Matthew Stoney, and he owns an incredible number of world records for the largest pizza slice eaten in 60 seconds, or the most number of hot dogs eaten in 60 seconds. He is what I would label as an overeater. But the difference between him and you is the fact that he is eating a considerable number of calories within one meal, whereas you are eating a considerable number of calories across a high frequency of meals. So if it's 3 meals, 5 meals, we need to look at portion size. And the best way that we can do that is by using something called the portion plate. And it's a very, very simple tool to use. Essentially, whenever you have a plate in front of you and you're dishing out your food, all I want you to focus on is this. A quarter carbohydrate is represented as a palm size. So that could be a jacket potato. It's a starchy carbohydrate. It's very, very good for you. Then a quarter protein is also represented as a palm size. That could be a lean cut chicken breast. Then for half of your plate, we're going to fill it up with vegetables: blues, reds, yellows, greens, pinks, oranges, blacks, purples. I can't think of any more colors, but that's going to help with your hunger and also your satiety cues, because it's going to be high in fiber. It's actually going to slow down digestion, helping you to feel fuller for longer, which will then prevent you overeating, whether you go for a second or even thirds within that meal. Alongside the portion plate, we also want to get specific when it comes to the amount of protein that you should be consuming, because for some of you who are athletes or you resistance train, a quarter protein for every single meal may not necessarily be enough. Therefore, you may then have half of your portion plate filled up with lean cut proteins, so 2 quarters. You can also use this: 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So let's say, for example, I was 200 pounds body weight, and I've been trying to aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That would mean I would need to consume roughly 200 grams of protein every single day to maintain or build muscle. Now, I would generally recommend that you have protein on the upper limit when you are in a dieting phase, whereas if you're trying to gain weight, it would be on the lower end of that range, just because we want to prioritize carbohydrates to fuel your performance. But anywhere between 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body But anywhere between 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight is going to be a very good start and a range that I would work in. Now, what's interesting is that for a lot of people, they tend to forget about water intake, because the body is typically 60 to 80% water. And if you have a 10% loss in water, that can massively impact your performance. And when we talk about performance, it could be performance in the gym, it could be your overall energy, it could be movement throughout the gastrointestinal tract to move food from the mouth to the anus. But what I would do is I would aim for a range of 15 to 20 mils per pound of body weight. And we can see there, again, if I was 200 pounds, that's 3 to 4 liters of water every single day. So let's say my bottle, it is 1 liter. Well, I would be filling that up 3 to 4 times. Very, very simple. Finally, we're going to run through the 4 steps in order. Number 1, you actually need to identify whether you are a overeater or whether you are a grazer. If you are a grazer, we need to adopt a fasting window throughout the day. That's going to come down to your dietary habits, your hunger and satiety cues, but also your schedule. You will know what's going to work for you. If you enjoy fasting in the morning up till lunch, please do it. If you're finding that you're incredibly hungry in the morning, well, guess what? Fasting is not going to work for you in the morning, but you can then strategize around when you are having important meals, such as meals with friends, family, or even your partner. Number 2, if you are an overeater, I would adopt the portion plate. A quarter carbohydrate represented as a palm size, a quarter protein also represented as a palm size, and then half of vegetables represented as your 8 fingers. Now, if you are someone that does resistance training, you may want to monitor your protein intake and work within that range of 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Or if you're someone that's not tracking, I would increase your quarter protein to half protein on every single plate. And then finally, we want to prioritize your daily hydration intake. We want to be in a constant state of hydration, or even dip into something called euhydration, but never dehydration. Just because that can massively impact your cognition, it can also impact your performance in the gym, and it can actually affect your weight loss and total fat loss, just because it's going to skew your hunger and also your satiety hormones. If you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.